her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every in Detroit, she's better than all of you. Does he have to go to the WNBA, where he will score 840 points a game?
Dave Chappelle has continued to troll the woke culture with his provoking comedy. Regardless of the backlash and censorship, the iconic stand-up legend has stayed keen on addressing trans ideology with every chance he gets.
If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan, that's not gonna work.
Starting with this stand-up comedy show, where Dave Chappelle went directly for the LGBTQ community.
The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people.
Chappelle went directly for the bull's horn, not minding the fact that fellow comedian Kevin Hart got canceled for the same reason.
You know who I mean. Those people that took 20% of the alphabet for themselves. I'd say the letters, but I don't want to conjure their anger.
Apparently, Chappelle believes he has been in the game for long enough to hold his own with any form of comedic material, and he is clearly of the opinion that he can certainly push the boundaries of his comedy toward this line.
I'm talking about them L's and them B's and them G's and the T's. People be surprised. I have friends, all kinds of letters. Everybody loves me and I love everybody.
What Dave said was exactly meant to touch on the woke mob ideologies. He clearly wasn't holding back on his views, and the crowd seemed to be riled up for Dave Chappelle's hilarious deliveries.
I can't stop telling jokes about these niggas. I don't want to write these jokes, but I just can't stop.
Dave Chappelle accused himself of causing all the issues, as he has boldly claimed to be unable to stop making jokes about the LGBT community. Whatever consequences he ensures, he believes he is ready to deal with it.
LBGT, and you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together.
His next attack on the woke media came in one of Chappelle's iconic and dramatic storytelling style of comedy, and his delivery carried the impact he intended it to. In this case, Chappelle talked about the first time he met Jim Carrey.
He says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon.
Chappelle described the whole scenario of meeting Jim Carrey in a movie set and went on about how Jim was extremely engrossed in the role he was playing. And at this point, the audience, although amused, had no idea where Chappelle was going with the narration.
And Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that.
Dave Chappelle would go on to talk about Jim Carrey's entire work attitude and how he had to pretend that Jim Carrey was someone else all day long.
So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey! And everyone said, no!
By the time Dave finally sends the finishing blow, everyone in the audience is left in shock and amused as Chappelle describes the feeling of having to pretend Jim Carrey was someone else to how he feels about trans people.
And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
Nobody expected Dave Chappelle to make such comments about trans, but that is the personality that Chappelle intends to portray with his comedic twist. A certain level of unpredictable character seems to add excitement to his character, in Chappelle's opinion.
It's like that white black that's in the news all the time. Rachel Dolezal. She always says that. She's a white woman, but then she dressed up like a nigga. And
Dave Chappelle has always been critical of Rachel Dolezal. His attack on her is based on what is believed to be her woke appropriation of the black race, which, according to Chappelle, is completely insane and mind-bugging.
And I always wanted to meet her just so I could understand. I just wanted to like have dinner with her so I could just look in her eyes and call her to her face.
Dave Chappelle's hilarious take on Dolezal later shifted to his comparison of her claim to that of trans people, which, according to Chappelle, is clearly different. He takes every chance he gets to speak his mind on all issues relating to wokeness.
Okay, here it goes. Hey, if you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you.
Dave Chappelle took a bold step to go directly against the audience. His take on the cancel culture tactics, which he believes are used by the woke mob, is that of a crowd of people looking carefully to find any faults against people, regardless of the distinctions between celebrities and just ordinary people.
Who's that? That's you. That's what the audience sounds like to me.
Chappelle's bold move to attack his audience on their roles in the cancellation of celebrities and other personalities is just wild. It is not everyone we get to see comedians attack their entire audience on live television.
That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all is the worst I've ever tried to entertain in my life.
Here is another clip of Dave Chappelle using one of his iconic storytelling tactics to deliver another blow on woke culture in the most hilarious deliveries ever. He begins the story by recounting an event during the COVID years.
Sadly, it worked. I ran right over there. I said, I'm pointing right in the camera. I said, "You're doing this to me."
Dave Chappelle has a way of riling up crowds before he delivers the actual final touch to his storytelling. Most people didn't anticipate the ending that he gave this comedy delivery, and the momentum only grew as he told the story.
This fella's gay. Now, you know how I talk. I call everybody a you know what I mean? But that's not a right thing to do if they're gay, you know what I mean? And now I was in trouble.
By this point, everyone was expecting the punchline, and Dave Chappelle knew exactly what he had planned out for this particular delivery.
How could I be scared? Shirt was tied up in a knot like this. This guy, let's go, let's go. I thought we were gonna come to blows. I was ready.
Chappelle's punchline left the crowd dumbfounded as he shifted from the LGBT issues to the issues talking about the racial minority and how he believes the woke movement manipulates these factors to push their agenda.
Gay people are minorities until they need to be white again.
Chappelle moved to another story about his encounter with a lesbian, and by the time he was done, the whole crowd was certain he was making another trans joke as usual.
This woman claimed that I beat her up in a nightclub because she was a lesbian. That crazy. Bitch, I didn't even know you was a woman.
Dave Chappelle's attacks on the trans movement have brought him under a lot of fire. Still, it seems like the comedy icon doesn't mind the media attention that his comedy generates. He constantly goes on rampages on the trans culture, regardless of the impending backlash from the woke left.
She said, "Stop calling me a man. I'm a woman." I said, "What?"
The crowd seemed to enjoy the whole scenario that Chappelle describes about his confusion with a trans lesbian.
Even when I watch sports, I be thinking about, think about, okay, say LeBron James changed his gender.
More clips of Chappelle talking about the transgender equality movement, especially in the area of sports competition. It's obvious that Dave Chappelle doesn't get tired of throwing jabs at the trans mob, something he has become famous for.
Can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
Some believe that Dave Chappelle's assertion that LeBron James would score over 800 points if he joined the WNBA is far-fetched. But it seems like Dave Chappelle is extremely convinced of this outcome, despite the backlash he has suffered. Chappelle fails to relent, despite promising never to make trans jokes on countless occasions.
What does it actually mean to be equal? You know what I mean? Like, if women are actually equal to men, then there would be no WNBA, would there? you would just be good enough to play in the NBA with us.
His jokes about people have made Dave Chappelle take on newfound fame, and most of it is centered around his constant bashing of the trans community.
You could shut
The pronoun battle is something Dave Chappelle has taken quite seriously. His confusion with the whole issue of personalized pronouns is something most people struggle with, but are way too timid to talk about. Not for Dave Chappelle, though.
If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan, that's not gonna work. God, I feel, why should I give a how you feel? It's a pronoun.
He has found his way of making sure he talks about it every time he holds a microphone. This story about his misgendering experience is one of many he has told to shed light on his confusion with the trans movement.
It appears that her dick is popping out of her dress. You mind if I call an ambulance, champ? I'd rather not be at a party where a tranny ODs. There's too many questions to answer.
Dave Chappelle has continued to be one of the faces of stand-up comedy, despite the continued backlash he has faced for his intense comments on woke culture.
I identify black. That is trans talk, ladies. Stop biting. Stop biting.
Say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA? Or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
And I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're finished. Who's that? That's you.
It's clear that Dave Chappelle isn't shying away from controversy. In fact, he's steering straight into it. Whether it's feminism, LGBTQ+ issues, or cancel culture. Dave's unapologetic approach to comedy ensures that no topic is off limits. Buckle up, because we're about to explore how Dave Chappelle crushed woke culture, one controversial subject at a time.
I don't want to write these jokes, but I just can't stop.
One of Dave's most memorable bits from his recent specials is his illustrative breakdown of the LGBTQ+ community, cleverly portrayed as a group of people on a road trip. Each letter in the LGBTQ+ acronym has a specific role in the car, highlighting the complex and often tense dynamics between different identities.
What I didn't realize at the time, and what Kevin had to learn the hard way, is we were breaking an unwritten and unspoken rule of show business. And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people.
The G's, gay men, are driving the car, which Chappelle suggests makes sense because white men, often perceived as the least oppressed, dominate this group. We built these roads, Dave quips, a nod to the historical privilege and influence that white men have held.
That makes sense to me, because there's white men in the G's. And these people are trying to get around discrimination and oppression. And you know how white dudes are. We know these roads. In fact, we built these roads. The rest of you buckle up. We'll get you to where you want to go.
The L's, lesbians, sit in the passenger seat, respected but not fully embraced by the G's. There's a subtle tension between the two groups, with Dave pointing out the subliminal digs that sometimes occur between them. Real quick, if you're enjoying this content and want more insights like this, hit subscribe and help us reach these topics to a wider audience. Thank you for the support. Now, let's jump back in.
Everybody likes the L's, except for the G's.
The B's, bisexuals, are stuck in the back seat. And according to Dave, both the L's and G's find them greedy for their fluidity. They seem to be the group that makes the least sense to the others, adding to the comedic absurdity of the metaphor. Dave explains that the T's, transgender people, are in the farthest back seat, respected but also resented for making the trip take longer. The T's seem to be misunderstood, and their struggles, particularly when it comes to societal acceptance, are portrayed as a source of frustration for the other passengers.
Anything the T's say gets on everybody's nerves. And then the T's don't even say anything bad. They should be in the back talking to themselves. I'm hot. Shut up. Shut the up, okay? Just roll the window down.
Lastly, the Q's, questioning queer, are hitchhikers picked up along the way. Chappelle portrays them as confused about their identity, which adds to the comedy of an already tense car ride.
And just when that car can't get any more tense, the Q's are a hitchhiker that they pick up on the road. Some white dude in booty shorts is walking down the freeway. The G's see him. That guy might be one of us. Hey, are you okay? Need some help? And he come over there with them booty shorts leaning on the window. Hey, what's going on, fellas? Lady.
What makes this bit work is how Dave turns the complexities of identity politics into an absurd road trip. He's highlighting the real-world tensions within the LGBTQ+ community while making it laugh out loud funny. By acknowledging these complexities through humor, he brings attention to the subtle power dynamics even within groups that are supposed to be unified in their fight for equality.
But they're so confusing. And it's not all my fault. I feel like they need to take some responsibility for my jokes. Because I didn't come up with this idea on my own. This idea that a person can be born in the wrong body. But they have to admit, that's a hilarious predicament.
Next, Chappelle dives into the concept of being born in the wrong body. While this idea is central to the experience of many transgender people, Dave approaches it with a mix of empathy and bewilderment. He admits to being confused by it, not as an excuse to mock trans people, but to illustrate how complex and challenging these discussions can be for those outside the trans community.
That wouldn't be funny if it happened to me? I think it would be. What if it did? What if I was Chinese, but this body? That's not funny.
He makes light of the situation by imagining himself born as a Chinese man trapped in a black man's body. With his characteristic humor, Dave paints a picture of walking around making exaggerated faces, claiming, "This is how I feel inside." It's a provocative image, but it also underscores his broader point. How we feel inside doesn't always align with how the world sees us, and that discrepancy can be both tragic and, in Dave's eyes, ironically humorous.
And for the rest of my life, I had to go around making that face. Hey, everybody, I'm Chinese! And everyone get mad. Stop making that face. That's offensive. What? This is how I feel inside.
By placing himself in the shoes of someone experiencing gender dysphoria, even if for comedic effect, Chappelle invites his audience to think about the often surreal nature of identity and self-perception. It's an uncomfortable joke, but that's the point. He's asking his audience to sit in discomfort, much like the trans community must when navigating a society that doesn't fully understand them.
A lot of the LGBTQ community doesn't know Debaby's history. He's a wild guy. He once shot a and killed him in Walmart. Oh, this is true. Google it. Debaby shot and killed a in Walmart in North Carolina.
One of the most pointed critiques Chappelle makes in his special is directed at the inconsistencies of cancel culture, particularly when it comes to the rapper Debaby. After making homophobic remarks at a concert, Debaby was swiftly canceled by the LGBTQ+ community and the broader public. Yet, as Dave points out, Debaby's career remained relatively unscathed after he had previously killed someone in a Walmart, a fact that seemed to have far less impact on his public image. Dave's takeaway? In our country, you can kill a man, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings. It's a harsh, provocative statement that speaks to the power of public perception and the disproportionate consequences people face for different types of actions. Chappelle's critique here isn't about defending homophobia, but about the absurdity of how society chooses to punish people.
Nothing bad happened to his career. Do you see where I'm going with this? In our country, you can shoot and kill a but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings.
He's not afraid to point out the contradictions within the cultural climate. According to Dave, canceling Debaby for a comment while ignoring his violent past exposes how skewed our moral priorities can be. His commentary on cancel culture doesn't stop there either. It extends to how quickly society is willing to write off people without room for discussion, nuance, or growth.
It's like that white black bitch that's in the news all the time. Rachel Dolezal. She always says that. She's a white woman, but then she dressed up like a nigga. Shot her way up to the very top of blackness.
Chappelle also wades into the Rachel Dolezal controversy, the woman who identified as black despite being born white. In a bit that veers into the absurd, Dave compares Dolezal's story to that of transgender people, noting that while both involve a mismatch between one's internal identity and external appearance, society treats them very differently. If Rachel Dolezal can identify as black, why can't someone identify as another gender? He asks. He doesn't claim to have the answers, but instead uses humor to highlight the inconsistency in how society views these two forms of identity transformation. The comparison is shocking, yes, but it forces the audience to think critically about the nature of identity, race, and gender.
I identify black. That is trans talk, ladies. Stop biting. Stop biting.
Dave makes it clear that unlike Dolezal, he believes transgender people when they say they feel like they're in the wrong body. The difference, as he sees it, is in the commitment. Transgender individuals undergo medical and social changes to align their identity with their gender. At the same time, Dolezal merely dresses up as black. The punchline? I've never seen somebody throw their dick away. It's crass, but it drives home the point that the stakes for trans individuals are far higher than for someone like Dolezal. One of the more touching moments in Chappelle's special involves his friend Daphne, a transgender woman who attended several of his shows. Daphne laughed hardest at jokes about trans people, which led Dave to reflect on why she was able to find humor in what others found offensive. As Dave describes her, Daphne understood that jokes are jokes. They don't define who someone is or how they truly feel about a community.
I want your community to know that one of the coolest people I ever met was a transgender woman. And this is not a man that I knew that became a woman. This woman was trans when I met her. Lived in San Francisco. Daphne Dworman is her name. I would do 18 shows in the Bay Area, sometimes in Oakland and Dirty Hood nightclub, and she would be there, a white trans woman, laughing loud and hard at everything I said.
Daphne's tragic death, which Chappelle briefly touches on, adds a somber layer to the special. He mentions that after defending him online against critics, she was subjected to relentless harassment and ultimately took her own life. This revelation shifts the tone of the special, as Dave uses it to call out the harmful effects of internet outrage and mob mentality.
She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. You know, I believe you because it takes one to know one.
Chappelle's relationship with Daphne serves as a counterpoint to the accusations of transphobia that have been leveled against him. He uses their friendship to show that it's possible to make jokes about a group of people while still respecting them as individuals. It's a nuanced take that asks the audience to see beyond the surface of the jokes and consider the broader message.
I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. It all depends on who I get pregnant.
Dave also tackles feminism and, more specifically, the modern feminist movement. He doesn't shy away from poking fun at the contradictions within the movement, particularly the divide between white feminists and feminists of color. Chappelle points out that while feminism claims to fight for equality, it often overlooks the unique struggles of women of color, making it feel exclusionary to many.
Ladies, to be fair to us, I also believe if you decide to have the baby, a man should not have to pay. That's fair. If you can kill, I can at least abandon them.
He also addresses the Me Too movement, acknowledging its importance, but critiquing the way it has, in some cases, gone too far. Dave makes the case that while holding men accountable for their actions is crucial, the movement sometimes fails to offer a path to redemption for those who have made mistakes. His point is that without forgiveness or the possibility of change, we risk creating a society where people are afraid to speak or make jokes at all.
But I can't say the word. And she said, because, David, you are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a.
In another instance, Dave Chappelle directly confronted woke activism through his jokes about transgender people. He openly questioned why comedy should be censored for addressing topics related to gender identity.
Like this, Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person, Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every Detroit, she's better than all of you. Never even had a period. Ain't that something?
Chappelle argued that jokes about transgender people were not rooted in hate, but in humor. He expressed confusion about why some audiences took offense, emphasizing that his comedy was about highlighting human experiences, not targeting individuals. Chappelle highlighted the difficulty comedians face when navigating sensitive topics, questioning why certain subjects are off limits while others are not. This stance directly opposed the woke culture's demand for censorship.
Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. I'd be mad if I was me. If I was in a BET Awards sitting there and they're like, and the winner for the year, Eminem, my man. Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. That is a fact.
His jokes about Caitlyn Jenner stirred controversy. Chappelle addressed the backlash by explaining that he didn't dislike transgender individuals, but believed he had the right to joke about anyone. The second instance occurred when Chappelle used a metaphor about the LGBTQ+ community, riding in a car to highlight internal conflicts. He pointed out the tensions between different groups within the community.
But I didn't realize at the time, and what Kevin had to learn the hard way, is we were breaking an unwritten and unspoken rule of show business. And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people. I'd say the letters, but I don't want to conjure their anger. It's too late now. I'm talking about them L's and them B's and them G's and the T's.
Chappelle described how the G's, gay men, seemed to lead the movement, while the L's, lesbians, B's, bisexuals, and T's, transgender individuals, had different experiences. He humorously explained how bisexuals were seen as greedy and how transgender people were often resented for slowing down progress.
People be surprised. I have friends, all kinds of letters. Everybody loves me, and I love everybody. I got friends who are L's, I got friends who are B's, and I got friends who are G's. But the T's hate my guts. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault, it's mine. I can't stop telling jokes about these niggas. I don't want to write these jokes, but I just can't stop. You know, you hear all those letters together all the time, LBGT, LBGT, and you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together.
This metaphor cleverly exposed unspoken issues within the LGBTQ plus community. Chappelle's portrayal wasn't hateful, but was designed to reveal real tensions that activists rarely discuss.
My guess is the G's are driving that car. That makes sense to me, because there's white men in the G's. And these people are trying to get around discrimination and oppression. And you know how white dudes are. We know these roads.
The third moment involved a confrontation with a woman who accused Chappelle of hating women after watching his comedy. This interaction highlighted how people often misinterpret jokes without understanding context.
And I look back and sure enough, there she was, that face. To be honest with you, she probably wasn't even that old. She's probably around my age. But she was a white woman. This terrible. I kept my cool. I was nice. I said, "Hello, miss." And she didn't say anything back. All she said was, "I watch your comedy." I said, "Uh-oh." And then she says, "It's true." She goes, "It sounds to me like you hate women."
Chappelle responded by pointing out that comedy is an art form open to interpretation. He questioned why the woman felt personally attacked when his jokes weren't directed at her specifically. He cleverly asked if she had bought a ticket to his show or simply watched clips online, emphasizing that people often judge comedians without engaging with their full work.
I said, "Well, you know what, miss? It's art. And you're free to interpret this art however you'd like. But I can tell you, as the maker of this art, that I don't believe that I feel that way." And she said, "Well, I think," and I said, "Shut up, shut the up. Before I kill you and put you in the trunk, ain't nobody around here."
Chappelle's response underscored how cancel culture fosters quick judgments without context. He defended his right to joke about gender dynamics while rejecting the claim that he was misogynistic.
Gentlemen, that is true. Just because they dress a certain way doesn't mean they are a certain way. Don't ever forget it. But ladies, you must understand that that is confusing.
Next up, Chappelle tackled cancel culture itself. He criticized how society punishes public figures for past mistakes, often ignoring their growth and context. Chappelle argued that cancel culture discourages free speech by creating fear of backlash. He believed that people should be allowed to make mistakes without being permanently labeled.
If you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're finished.
Who's that? That's you.
He also highlighted how activists weaponize social media to destroy careers over jokes taken out of context. For Chappelle, this environment stifles creativity and honesty. His resistance to cancel culture made him a target, but it also solidified his role as a defender of free speech.
Are you surprised, though, by the criticism that's come your way?
No, and I don't mind that people get upset. Some of this criticism, like, is helpful. Like, I get educated by it. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I learn about a lot of things.
The fifth moment is Chappelle's critique of performative activism that is more about appearances than real change. He often mocks celebrities and corporations that adopt social causes only when it's popular. Chappelle pointed out how brands suddenly support movements like Black Lives Matter when it's profitable, but ignore systemic issues when they're not trending.
I ain't doing trans jokes no more. You know what I'm gonna do tonight? Tonight, I'm doing all handicap jokes. Well, they're not as organized as the gays. And I love punching down.
While civil rights advocacy group the National Black Justice Coalition called on Netflix to remove the Chappelle special from their catalogue altogether. So, should comedy always punch up rather than down, or are comedians free to say whatever they want, even if it offends?
The sixth moment involved Chappelle's take on identity politics. He criticized how society increasingly defines people solely by race, gender, or sexuality rather than their character. Chappelle argued that identity politics creates division by focusing on differences instead of common ground. He believed this approach hindered real progress.
That makes sense to me, because there's white men in the G's. And these people are trying to get around discrimination and oppression. And you know how white dudes are. We know these roads. In fact, we built these roads. Of course, next to the G's in the passenger seat is the L's. Everybody likes the L's, except for the G's. I don't know what that's about. I just know the G's don't like them that much. And the G's always say like little subliminal digs on them. It's unnecessary shit. It's not mean, but you know what I mean? They just be like, I wouldn't wear that.
He joked about how identity groups compete for victimhood, turning social justice into a contest. This satirical view challenged woke activists who prioritize identity over unity. By mocking this dynamic, Chappelle encouraged audiences to think beyond labels and focus on shared experiences. His comedy questioned whether identity politics truly helps marginalized groups or deepens social divides.
If it's one thing that the L's and the G's agree on, is that the B's are gross. They seem greedy to the L's and the G's, you know what I mean? They're just sitting in the backseat like, yeah, man, I'll everybody in this car, what's going on, man?
That was not only that, but Chappelle's strongest stance was refusing to apologize for his comedy. Despite intense criticism, he didn't back down. Chappelle acknowledged that people were hurt by his jokes, but refused to let that dictate his content. He believed that comedy's role is to challenge, not to please everyone.
These kids said everything about gender and this and that and the other, but they didn't say anything about art. And this is my biggest gripe with this whole controversy with the closer, that you cannot report on an artist's work and remove artistic nuance from his words.
Even when activists demanded apologies and Netflix employees protested his specials, Chappelle defended his right to free speech. He argued that jokes are meant to provoke thought, and that censoring comedians only weakens society's ability to confront uncomfortable truths.
And this is my biggest gripe with this whole controversy with the closer, that you cannot report on an artist's work and remove artistic nuance from his words. It would be like if you were reading a newspaper and they say, man, shot in the face by a 6-foot rabbit, expected to survive. You'd be like, oh my God. And they never tell you it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Chappelle's resilience against cancel culture solidified his position as a fearless voice in comedy. His refusal to conform to woke demands made him both a controversial figure and a symbol of creative freedom.
The more you say I can't say something, the more urgent it is for me to say it. And it has nothing to do with what you're saying I can't say. It has everything to do with my right, my freedom of artistic expression that is valuable to me, that is not separate from me. It's worth protecting for me, and it's worth protecting for everyone else who endeavors in our noble, noble professions.
And there you have it, the very essence of Dave Chappelle's fearless comedy, challenging woke activism while defending free speech and pushing societal boundaries. What's your take? Is Chappelle a trailblazer for free expression, or is his approach too controversial for today's world? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more engaging content diving into today's most thought-provoking debates.